Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are heading to the Western Conference for our first round series matchup between the number 2 Winnipeg Jets and the number 3 Colorado Avalanche. This is a Central Division matchup that we just saw at the end of the season, but is that indicative for what we're going to see in the playoffs? We're going to discuss that today. So, this is the type of series that could be a little bit elusive. The way both of these teams got here, listen, the Jets had a little bit of a down stretch. Colorado had a good stretch. Kind of made some ground, kind of catching up to the Jets, maybe to take home ice advantage. And then Winnipeg kind of took off, and then the Avalanche have really hit the dirt at this point to end the season, and we're going to take a look at that. So, looking at the key stats during the season for these teams, right? So let's start off with the Colorado Avalanche, because the Colorado Avalanche might be surprising to a lot of you because we know how good the Avalanche can be, but this season almost feels like a disappointment, and that sounds silly to say when they have 105 points on the season, 49 wins, 105 points, third in the division. Their goals for is first in the NHL. Their goals against is 17th in the NHL, which is not by any means bad. So, what's kind of the issue here? Their last couple of games have been very concerning. And when I say very concerning, I mean very, very concerning. Just to look at a couple of their last couple matchups here, it is very telling down the stretch. You do not want to lose games. You do not want to lose momentum. Colorado has done that in the worst possible way. Looking at their last couple games, all right, this is their schedule for their last 10 games, and it is not too pretty. Let's start off here. Winnipeg, 6-2 loss against the Oilers. How did they follow that up? A 7-4 loss against the Dallas Stars. Now, they did follow that up with a 5-2 win over the Minnesota Wild. Beautiful. Perfect. That's a great win. But then the second they play two more playoff teams, what happens? 7-0 loss to the team they're going to play in the first round that we're talking about today. Ouch. And then what makes this loss worse, because you might think to yourself, well, they lost 4-3 in overtime to Vegas. That's not a bad loss. Except they went into the third period with a 3-0 lead and lost that game in overtime. That's what makes that one ugly. And you look at that last 10-game stretch, they played Columbus. They lost to Columbus 4-1. There's a lot of concerning games here. And it's not like they're losing 2-1 or 2-0 or whatever. They're losing 7-0, 6-2, 4-1 to the Columbus Blue Jackets, giving up a 3-goal lead in the third period against Vegas, one of your other rivals other than Winnipeg. There hasn't been a response. And Jared Bednar said that, and I watched his conference the other night, and he said, last week we had a tough stretch. We had 3 games in 4 nights. We played Edmonton. There was enough of the excuse train, right? Edmonton, Dallas, this and that, 3 games in 4 nights. We were tired. But we had a 2-day rest before this game against Vegas. There's no excuse for that one. And that's where this is now becoming a pattern. And that's what concerns me about Colorado here, is this is a good hockey team. This is a team that won the Stanley Cup over the last 5 years. They know how to get it done. The question is, are they going to be able to overcome this late in the year? Because some of the mistakes they're making are mental mistakes. Those don't magically go away on game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's a mental thing that has to be trained back out. Can Jared Bednar get this team ready to go? Because that is very concerning. And I could read all these stats here, right? Because, they're first in the league for goals for. They have scored the most goals of any team in the NHL so far. They have given up 17th, right? That's not too bad. They score goals. They do. And that first line is really killing it right now. Arturi Lehkonen, Nathan MacKinnon, and Jonathan Drouin has been everything that Avalanche fans could have asked for this season. But the last couple games has to be very concerning. And for me to not mention that during this preview, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention it. Okay? Winnipeg, on the other hand, a little bit more positive. But they're kind of the flip of the script here. So, Winnipeg's situation is their goals for is 16th in the NHL, and their goals against is the best in the National Hockey League. So, basically, the inverse of Colorado. So Winnipeg's defense is best in the league and middle of the road goals for. Meanwhile, Colorado has the most goals for and middle of the road for their defensive play. So that's going to be really interesting to see the number one goals against versus the number one goals for. We'll see how that plays off in the playoffs. But you know my saying, defense wins championships. And if that's the case, that should be in favor of Winnipeg. But we're going to continue. Gabe Vilardi, really interesting guy to watch in this series because he now has 5 goals in the past 10 games down the stretch. He's been really good for the Jets. They're going to need that to continue. Nikolai Ehlers leads the team in points over the last few games. He's been really good. This is a Jets team that has kind of surprised me in a lot more ways than one. I'm really impressed with what I've seen from them. They're a team that can score goals. They're a team that can play really solid defense, and they have Connor Hellebuyck. And Connor Hellebuyck, I think him alone, if he's healthy, could be enough to drag this team to the Western Conference Final. And I really think that you want to talk about a team that should win a series here in terms of who's been playing hot, who hasn't. Damn, this is the series for the Winnipeg Jets. They could take advantage of Colorado, maybe limping their way into the playoffs, a little unsure of themselves. If Winnipeg comes into this series, they have home ice. They're up 2-0 on the Jets. They plant that seed of doubt in Colorado, and then maybe they steal one of those games in Colorado. This could be done in 5 or 6 games. But if Colorado comes out swinging, and they take, and that's why I think it's so important for Winnipeg to win this series. They have to kill this early. Don't give any satisfaction to the Avalanche. Don't give them any confidence to work off of because right now they're at the bottom of the barrel. They're looking for anything they can get. And if Colorado comes out storming in this series, you're seeing MacKinnon putting the team on his back like we know he always does and is capable of doing. And you get the depth scoring from Lehkonen and Drouin and everybody else down there, and Casey Mittelstadt, you get that depth scoring. Ooh, this is going to be a tough series for the Jets. Now, another interesting thing, the number 1 and number 2 goalies this season for most wins during the regular season go to Alexander Georgiev and Connor Hellebuyck. Alexander Georgiev led the NHL in wins this season. 38 wins, which is fairly low, and that's becoming a trend around the league, but 38 wins for Georgiev and 36 wins for Hellebuyck. Like I said, that's number 1 and 2 in the league for the most wins during the regular season. So these guys have stood on their head this year to get these teams to the playoffs. They've definitely worked their butts off. It's going to have to continue here in this series. And, I think both of these teams overall, really solid teams. But this is playoff hockey, and everyone will say, it's one of those things. You don't want to look too much into the end of the regular season, but you do. Enough to where, let's put it this way, I overlook stats that are over the progression of the entire season more so than I do the last 10 games. The last 10 games of a season are meaningful and impactful. We've seen that with Boston last year. We've seen that with Tampa a couple years ago in 2018, 2019 against Columbus, right? So those last 10 games matter. But when people say, and I just talked about this with the Islanders, over the scale of a full 82-game schedule, the Islanders were sub 500. Yeah, but you know what? In the playoffs, it doesn't matter what your record is. For Colorado and Winnipeg, your records don't matter. It is all about this is your new season. The playoffs are their own specific season. And I'm hoping Colorado can overcome some of their demons here down the stretch. They have one more game. Hopefully they could get a confidence boost here to end the season and go into the playoffs on a high note. But right now, defense wins championships. I like Connor Hellebuyck. He's been, Georgiev had a lot of success really early in the season. He's not been playing bad, but he's not as dominant as he was till like halfway through the year. He's still been very good this year, and I love seeing the progression of Georgiev because, including myself, there were a lot of haters and naysayers about Georgiev, but a big reason the Avalanche are here and playing the way they had up until last week is because of Georgiev. So, with that said, I'm going with the Jets winning this series. I think this could be a series that might surprise some people. I think they could win this series in 5. And I hate to say that because I love Colorado and I love the Avalanche. I'm sure Colorado fans will not be happy with this, but they know what I'm talking about. If you're going into this playoffs with the spirit they have at this moment, those crushing losses, 7-0 to these Jets, 6-4 or 6-2 against Edmonton, you know, that other loss they had during that trip to Dallas, like, you can't be doing that now. You cannot be giving up 6, 7, 4 goals against Columbus in your final dozen games of the year. You're not going to find success in the playoffs. This is not the time for that. And unfortunately for Colorado, I think it's going to hurt them in the playoffs. So that's my prediction for this series. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Who do you got for this one? Do you got Colorado? Or do you got the Winnipeg Jets? Like I said, I'm going with Winnipeg in 5. I know, it sounds like a take, saying they're going to take this series so quickly. It's not a disrespect of the Colorado Avalanche. It's the state of where they're at right now. Their last 2 weeks have not been at all impressive to me. The eye test is not good at all for this team. And I like the Winnipeg Jets, and defense wins championships. And Connor Hellebuyck is Connor Hellebuyck, one of, if not the best goalies in the NHL. I got to go with the Jets here, guys. So that's what I think. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the rest of my playoff previews and predictions here over the next couple of days. The playoffs start this weekend, so get ready as the playoffs are going to be underway very, very shortly. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.